Freezing units. What's up, gentlemen? In today's video, we're going to be going through the evolution of all freezing units in Battle Nations because we just unlocked the ability to freeze things very recently, so I feel like it's a perfect time to discuss this. Just to preface, freeze is a DOT kind of like stun, where it basically makes an enemy incapable of attacking and also tags a damage modifier that increases damage by all the basic sources by 150%, which as you can imagine is pretty fucking insane and can be an absolute game changer for certain situations and can even make shitty units more viable late game. I'd also like to say that if you end up enjoying this evolution video, consider dropping a like or a sub. We are seriously so close to hitting 1k subs and I want to reach it before the end of the year. But starting off, we have the very first example of a unit that can freeze, that being the Cryo Trooper. This unit can be unlocked at level 48 and can be trained at the barracks for gold, steel, and 2 laurels, and it's pretty much the most basic and bare bones freezing unit that you can get your hands on. It has one attack where it shoots a cryogenic cloud that only hits one target, but has a 100% chance to freeze for 3 turns. Its damage is nothing to write home about, but it does have 20% armor piercing, which is alright. Its health isn't too strong though. It only gets up to 270 at R6, but it's also one of the cheaper freezing units to heal, just costing gold and steel, which is pretty nice. Overall, the Cryo Trooper is the free-to-play freezing unit, and it does alright, but it only goes up from here. The next unit is also unlocked at level 48, and it is the Frostbite. You can train this at the vehicle factory for 65 nanos, and in a lot of ways, it's like the Cryo Trooper, but with some notable upgrades. First off, its attack is better, having a better pattern with it being a cross, dealing more damage, while also keeping the 100% freeze chance and the 20% armor piercing. This is a serious upgrade from the Cryo Trooper, because having the ability to freeze up to 5 units in the same turn is genuinely amazing. Another huge upgrade the Frostbite gets is it has way more health and armor, getting up to 435 combined at R6, along with getting some good resistances, making it somewhat tanky, which is nice for the longer battles or when fighting the Ancient Sentinel. The one drawback compared to the Cryo Trooper is that to heal the Frostbite, it is more pricey, costing gold, steel, oil, and 1 to 2 gears, but I think it's definitely worth it for the upgrades. Moving along, the next unit we have is one that many people are looking forward to, and it is none other than the Elemental Trooper. This unit is unlocked at level 56 and can be trained at the barracks for 60 nanos. Unlike the previous 2 entries, this unit actually has 4 attacks, but let's start with the first 2 that you unlock by default. The first is an ice pistol shot that's single target but deals pretty solid damage and has a 100% chance to freeze for 3 turns. The second attack is also a single target fire pistol shot that deals the same damage but has a 100% chance to inflict the fire DOT, which is pretty awesome. Then at rank 3 you unlock the 3x3 versions of these attacks, starting with the ice pistol, which does cost 25 nanos to research but covers a much larger area and does lose some damage, but it keeps the 100% freeze chance for 3 turns and actually gives the possibility of freezing up to 9 enemies in one shot, which is nuts. The other attack you unlock at rank 3 is the 3x3 fire pistol shot, which also costs 25 nanos to research and isn't quite as useful because it also loses some damage, but it kept the 100% chance to light things on fire, which is good at least. The really nice part of this unit, however, is actually its health and armor, where it gets up to 550 combined at R6 and has some of the best resistances of any unit on this list, with it taking way less damage from explosive and fire damage type attacks. But to balance it out, it is pretty weak to piercing and crushing attacks. To heal it, it's not too bad either, being similar to the Frostbite, costing gold, steel, and 1 to 3 gears. Overall, this guy is amazing, and it's definitely one of those units where buying 5 to 10 of them is honestly a solid idea. Now moving away from the base game units, we do have one boss strike unit, which is weirdly the Apex Stalker, which you receive from Boss Strike 4 and Boss Strike 15 at Tier 7 and Tier 5 respectively. This unit was similar to the normal Stalker, however it had many elemental attacks and actually had 4 attacks in total by default. The first was a front row cleave that had only 1 range but dealt amazing damage with 90% armor piercing and had a really nice crit bonus versus tanks and just a high base crit in general. The next 3 were all backliner attacks, starting with the freezing slash that hit in a 1x3 area with good damage and had a 50% chance to freeze for 3 turns, along with some nice crit rates and bonuses. The next was an electric slash, which dealt better damage with 25% armor piercing, along with a 50% chance to stun and some fantastic crit bonuses and a nice base crit. The last one was a fire slash, where it dealt pretty good damage and had a 75% chance to light things on fire, and once again, also had a really good crit bonus and a good crit rate. The health on the Apex Stalker wasn't too bad, getting up to 380 at R9, and on top of that, it also was super cheap to heal, just costing gold and steel. Overall, this unit's design was amazing, and it was actually pretty alright against the Sentinel, but as a freezing unit, it was alright. Now moving on from boss strike units, we have a couple freezing promos, starting with one of the best, the Blood Ninja. This unit could be trained at the barracks for 90 nanopods during the weekend starting July 26, 2013, but was also obtainable in 3 different secret vaults. This unit actually had 7 attacks, which is one of the most, if not the most amount of attacks of any unit in the game. But let's start with the katana attacks. The first was a flame slash that you got by default, and it dealt pretty good damage in a pyramid shape with 10% armor piercing and a 100% chance to set things on fire, along with having a crazy base crit of 50%. The next attack is what the Blood Ninja is most commonly known for, which is his Electric Strike, which deals ludicrous damage to a single tile with 50% armor piercing and a 100% chance to stun. If that wasn't enough, it also kept the 50% base crit, which is genuinely ridiculous. Then finally the Frozen Slice, which did cost 35 nanos but had a 100% chance to freeze one tile for 3 turns and did pretty solid damage with 25% armor piercing and also had the 50% base crit. The next 2 were both Shuriken Barrages, with a normal one that had 15% armor piercing, dealt good damage, and had a 50% base crit. Then a poison one that did cost 40 nanos and dealt the same amount of damage but had a 100% chance to poison for 4 turns and the same 50% base crit. The last 2 attacks were your basic flash grenade that dealt no damage but stunned an enemy for 2 turns, then an actual grenade that had alright damage, 25% armor piercing, and a nice 50% base crit. The health on the Blood Ninja did not get too high, getting up to 330 at R6, but to make up for it, he actually had 100 defense and 70 dodge at R6, which is less than the veteran, but it is still fantastic. The one major drawback to the Blood Ninja, however, was its price to heal, costing gold, steel, 1 to 2 bars, and 1 to 2 powder, which isn't too horrible, but back in the day, it wasn't too common to have powder stockpiled. Overall, the Blood Ninja was one of the best promos ever released and was extremely helpful in various different ways. Ironically, the next freezing unit that would be obtainable was also one of the best promos ever released, that being the Legendary Boar. You could obtain this unit in many different ways. The first was when it originally released on February 14th, 2014 till February 19th, 2014 for 85 nanopods, but it also reappeared in 2 secret vaults and in the second Breaking into the Vault event on the 3rd day for 64 nanos. This unit had 4 attacks that were all equipable straight out of the box. The first was a Rock Toss that dealt pretty nice damage with 25% armor piercing and a nice base crit of 25%. The next was a 1x3 Tusk hit that dealt decent damage with 40% armor piercing and had some nice crit rates and bonuses. The third was a Down the Lane charge that dealt great damage with 30% armor piercing, a 70% chance to stun, and also had some fantastic crit rates and bonuses. But the last attack is the one that we care about, which was the Roar, which dealt pretty good damage in a reverse pyramid shape with 30% armor piercing and a 75% chance to freeze for 3 turns. It did also have a 25% base crit, but the thing that makes this unit different from all the others is the fact that it actually dealt straight up cold damage, which is actually the only unit in all of Battle Nations with that trait. This makes it fantastic against the Sentinel, not only for freezing the ranged arm, but also the fact the main body is extremely weak to cold damage. But moving back to Legendary Boar itself, the health on it was very good, getting up to 830 at R9. And the price to heal was also pretty damn nice, just costing gold, 1 to 2 skulls, and 1 to 3 teeth, which is honestly nothing. Overall, this unit is extremely useful and can fill the role of several different units while also being one of the best against the Sentinel. The next freezing unit in Battle Nations is actually another solid one, and it is the Nomad Elemental Rover. This unit was originally released during the 13th boss strike for 79 nanos, but also appeared in the very last secret vault. This unit had 3 attacks that all represented a mix of the 3 core DOT effects being Fire, Freeze, and Stun. The Fire attack was a down the lane flamethrower that dealt okay damage with 25% armor piercing, and a 60% chance to set things on fire for 2 turns, which isn't too bad, but it is kind of mid. The next attack was a Freezing Blast, which acted a lot like the Frostbite, but hyper buffed. It was in a cross pattern and dealt way more damage with 20% armor piercing, and had a 100% chance to freeze for 3 turns, which is nice. The last one was an EMP half checkerboard attack, which dealt fantastic damage with a 45% chance to stun and a crit bonus against vehicles, but was actually incapable of critting outside of that. The Nomad also got a good amount of health, getting up to 645 combined at R8, and had some really nice resistances alongside that. The cost to heal the bastard was also pretty nice, just costing gold, iron, oil, and 1 to 5 gears, which isn't bad at all. The last freezing unit was kind of a letdown, and it is the Snow Crusher. This unit could be obtained from the vehicle shop for 70 nanos during the 17th boss strike, and was released to be a unit capable of withstanding the cold environment DOT. It had 3 attacks unlocked by default, starting with the 2 cannon shots. The first was a V-shape, similar to the M10, which dealt okay damage with 20% armor piercing, and had a 20% chance to freeze for 2 turns, and had some alright crit chances. The next was a 1x2 RNG triple shot that dealt better damage but kept the same 20% freeze for 2 turns, and the same crit chances. The last attack was a Snowplow Slam that hit the whole board and dealt alright damage with 10% armor piercing, and actually had some really nice crit bonuses. The health on the Snow Crusher was also pretty damn good, getting up to 845 at R9, and also had some pretty good resistances. The one sad part, however, is that it did cost gold, iron, oil, and 1 to 5 gears, which isn't the worst, but still. Overall, this unit was pretty good, but in terms of a freezing unit, it wasn't consistent whatsoever. But on that note, that's the whole evolution of units with freeze in Battle Nations. I do feel like this is an avenue that Madrona could definitely dive deeper into, with either adding more units that have this feature, or even tweaking the mechanic around it, so it's a bit different. But I think that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, consider dropping a like or a sub. We are on the climb to 1,000 subs, which is something I never thought that I would ever say, but here we are. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll see y'all later.